Everybody should have a bobble hula girl in their office. Mine's name is Lori. It'd be a lot better if she had an orange skirt, but that's okay. That's Lori, back there with my $1 million teddy bear. So, hey everybody, this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. Thanks for joining me again this week. If you remember last time I talked about change and how we have to practice a healthy state of dissatisfaction in order to be open to change in the future and to get better and things like that. And I sort of alluded to how it does impact when I approach people from a sales and marketing perspective, trying to understand their position and their thinking and what might it take to get them to change the way they're currently doing something in order to purchase my services or products that I might have. And like I said, people don't change unless they are dissatisfied with the current way they're doing things. Now, if I take that and I step it up a little bit into the marketing perspective of talking about it from our customers' perspective, our prospects' perspective, well, then really what I have to do is I have to find people who are essentially willing to change in order for them to start to buy from me, right? Now, if we think in terms of prospects versus leads, there's a difference between a prospect and a lead. See, a prospect is somebody who fits the profile of our target market. And it's actually pretty easy for us to identify what defines our prospect. It could be the industry that we're in, the type of product or service that they deliver, how big their company is, where they're located geographically, what role they play in the decision-making process, things like that. I mean, we all have a pretty good handle on who our prospect profile looks like, okay? But then we have to step it a little bit farther because, see, a prospect is not a lead. And the idea that we confuse a lead with a prospect, I think needs to be clarified here, okay? Like I say, prospect is the definition of somebody who fits the profile of our target market. A lead is somebody who not only fits the profile, but also has shown some level of interest, or they acknowledge that they might have a need to change, all right? Now, there's an old phrase, find a need and fill it. And let me tell you something, that phrase is completely 100% bogus. Completely bogus. Because, you see, here's the problem, is that we tend to look at that from our perspective. So, like if I were to say that I think everybody who is watching this video needs my services, needs me to help them, to help you grow your businesses. See, well, that's my perspective that you need that. You might fit the profile of my target market, but you might not necessarily agree with that need, right? See what I'm saying? So even though you fit the profile of my target market, if you don't agree that you have a need, then I'm going to have a very, very difficult time selling you my services, aren't I? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you need a car right now? Maybe some of you, maybe you do need a car right now, but I'm guessing you probably don't. But every car salesman out there thinks that you need a new car, and they would be happy to try to sell you a new car. But because you don't need a new car, you have no interest. You will not return phone calls. You will not. I got a phone call from a dealership the other night saying that he wanted to buy my used Jeep. And, of course, he wants to buy my used Jeep and sell me a new Jeep, right? Well, I have no interest. So I'm not going to return the phone call. So the idea that a prospect fits the profile of our target market is nice, because that's where we start. We start by identifying our prospects, going out and finding out where they are, and getting into them. And then the smartest thing we can do is, once we find those prospects, is then to offer something to them that gets them to raise their hand and say, hey, I have a need for that. I'm raising my hand. Yeah, I am interested in that. See, and now you've taken them from a prospect to a lead. And the more you can get, the higher the level of interest, the higher the level of need, Or as often as said, the bigger the problem you solve, the more valuable you will be, and the more urgent you will be needed. So understand there's a big difference between a prospect and a lead. And when we talk about getting people to change, well, they have to be dissatisfied. So either number one, they are already dissatisfied with the way they're currently doing something, and you come along and they raise their hand and they go, yeah, I'm interested in talking to you. Or if they fit the profile of your target market, then you must communicate with them in a way that causes them to be dissatisfied with their current way. You can't just go out there and just say, hey, you need a new car. No, you have to first make me dissatisfied with the car that I've got right now, to the point where I go, wow, I need a new car. Find a need and fill it is bogus. You want to identify your prospects. You want to uncover those people who understand and agree that they have a need for your product or service, so that they raise their hands, and that makes your path to closing that sale much, much shorter and much, much faster. Hey, if you like these little quick videos every week, please do me a favor and share them, and send them on and comment to them below. Big shout out to Mr. Dan Cole. Thanks for all the shares you sent out last week, buddy, and the great comments that you told everybody. I really, really appreciate that, and I appreciate you, Dan, for doing that. This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, and just want to always remind you, be uncopyable.